My name is Jen, and I am on a journey in order to break free from the destructive patterns of disordered eating and in order to embrace a nourishing lifestyle. My roadmap can be described using an acronym of the word Nourisher. So I'm doing daily video blog posts in order to encourage you, equip you, and keep you up to date on my progress. If this content is helpful or encouraging to you, please consider subscribing, hitting that like button, and sharing with others. It is my deep desire that these videos would help to ignite nourishing transformations in us all. Hi everybody, and welcome to day 19 of my Nourisher Check In. I am Jen, and I am so glad that you have come to join me as I go through the acronym Nourisher and reflect on my day. I hope that this acronym is also a helpful tool for you as you reflect on your own journey and your relationship with food, and I really hope that you are experiencing some success as you work towards being a nourisher and away from patterns of disordered eating. I am so encouraged by the strength of this tool, this community, this process in helping me to start to reorient my relationship with food. So thank you so much for joining me on that journey. So noticing my emotions, what I am noticing right now is probably tied into rewiring my brain, because this evening, it was just a great chill day. Went for a walk in the afternoon, played lots of games with the kids, just totally a chill, restful day. And in the evening, we'd had a little bit of an intense situation come up, worked through that, and then afterwards my husband invited me to watch a show with him. But the show that he had invited me to watch, I knew in my heart was going to be intense for me emotionally. So let me press pause there. So I wonder what you're like with this, but I am so impacted by what I see on the television screen. So I don't know what this says about me neurologically or from whatever perspective, but particularly if I see images of someone being mistreated, women being abused, those images stay with me forever. And I have, from being a child, I have really bad, scary memories of seeing kind of some of the childhood classic movies that really have haunted me and my dreams for a really long time. And so I'm very careful with what I see and what I watch, because I know that these images are very vivid to me. So typically, though, if someone else, if I know that it's not a show that's going to be super bad, and someone else wants to watch it, I just think, I don't always have the strength of voice to say, hey, no, that's going to be too intense for me tonight. But that was something that I was able to do, which I think is terrific, and was able to say, hey, I think that's going to be too intense. And my husband recommended, he said, hey, he had heard this great comedy sketch. So he said, why don't we watch this comedy sketch together? And it was so that whole idea of laughter being the best medicine. It was so wonderful. Probably the best thing we did to rewire our brains today. Really fun, really great to just release that just from your gut laugh. But what I'm noticing right now as I notice my emotions is I feel like my emotions are very present. And if I understand the neurology behind it, which I'm sure I don't, but some of the neuropsychology is, I think that emotion center is driven by an area of your brain called the hippocampus, which would, that intense laughter as well as intense crying would both be from that same area. And I'm not sure, please, if you know, I've tried to do a little bit of study on this, I can't find it. But why is it that sometimes when you're really laughing hard, it can switch to crying, which I've experienced. I don't know if anybody else has experienced that, but I'm curious as to why that is. And so I just noticed, I feel like my emotions are kind of a little bit more on the surface, and I'm wondering if it's because this area of my brain has been activated. So let's stay tuned, dialogue through that. If you know anything about that, please do educate the rest of us. We'd love to know a little bit more about the role of laughter in our brain health and in our emotional health and capacity. So opening up to others today was a bit of a chill day. No major big conversations, but felt like I was able to be present spiritually and present with myself today. And that was a really huge win Understanding the cycle was good today as well. No huge triggers. I did kind of anticipate a trigger coming up in that we're hosting some folks for a birthday party coming up in this next little while. There's quite a few birthday celebrations in June, and I just could recognize, hey, I've got to be really careful around those birthday party situations to be able to fully enjoy it, fully participate in the celebration, and yet not put myself in a place that is going against my values and is putting my body in a place of potential jeopardy in getting back into sugar addiction or something like that. So so today I put together a recipe of a dairy-free, gluten-free, sugar-free zucchini cake that I'm really looking forward to. Maybe if it was a little bit improv, but if I can think of what the recipe was, I'll put it down below. But just kind of preparing in advance for what some of those triggers may be that could send me spiraling into that cycle so that I can be making nourishing, healthy choices instead of ones that may, just may kind of be a vice to me instead. Rewiring my brain again. I think that this laughter was just a great way to finish our day. And what I noticed is that the laughter and that mood and that almost like that lens kind of spilled over into life. So then we went to crawl into bed, and one of our girls was in the bed, and my husband couldn't see her, and I said, hey, can you move her? And my husband couldn't see her, and I was like, she's there. But then it turned into this big joke, and it ended up being really funny, I think, because we were already in that kind of funny, comedy, laughy mood. And it made me think about the practice of appreciation, which has been such a huge, vital part of my healing journey thus far. Because the more that I practice stopping, reflecting, and appreciating, not just listing the things that I'm grateful for, but actually reliving and remembering the details of situations that I feel deep appreciation for, where I remember feeling accepted and a place of belonging and warmth and care, or extending that to someone else. When I bring up those memories, I find the more that I do that, the more I am anticipating looking for things to appreciate as I go throughout my day. That becomes a more normal stance. And it was kind of like that happened tonight. We were in this kind of laughter, joke, take things lightly mode, and then that carried on throughout the evening and just reminded me how what we're training our brains to do really does build kind of neurological muscles, so to speak, to help us to experience life and to cope with life and deal with life differently as we go throughout our days. So that was a huge encouragement. Insulin-friendly eating went great today. We had some zucchinis around, and I pulled out the inside, stir-fried it up with some meat and a bit of tomato sauce, and baked it in the oven and made for a really, really yummy meal. And the rest of the day just was good, stable, no huge cravings to speak of. Felt, maybe left a little bit too long in between meals at one point, so I did have a really big appetite for one meal, but everything seemed healthy and good in that regard. Hydration, I've mentioned, is difficult for me when I'm just at home, when I'm not kind of driving or something like that, so I did take a couple of breaks today to stop and just to have good glasses of water, but could have used greater hydration. Exercise, was able to get out for a really lovely 30-minute walk, not too intense, but yet intense enough. But I do long for having more regular activity in my day. So I don't know if that's just a longing that hopefully will be relieved when COVID is over, when I can go back to a little bit more, my job is more active, but definitely am grateful for the daily exercise, but recognizing that I wish that my whole lifestyle was a little bit more active. And for my reward today, it is just what I talked about earlier, about that idea that the retraining experiences that we have through the day, these things that we do intentionally, whether it's practicing appreciation, meditation, prayer, laughter, even practicing things like speaking our feelings, sharing our feelings, noticing our feelings, all of these different things that we are doing together really do grow capacity in our brains to be able to live differently into the days ahead. And that's so encouraging and exciting for me to know that some of these things are going to feel more natural. I often speak about what I'm trying to describe to someone who doesn't deal with disordered eating in the way that I do. Of course, all of our experience is so unique and personal. But one way that I try to describe it to them is to describe it like learning a second language. That so many of us that deal with disordered eating, we have, different emotional or traumatic roots that we've developed these now maladjusted coping mechanisms, or our relationship with food has developed out of some of these coping mechanisms that probably worked for us at one point in our lives, but are now definitely more destructive to us. And in order to come out of that and learn these new patterns, these new ways of interacting with ourselves, God, the world, to recognize our emotions, to speak our emotions, to settle our emotions, to experience joy. All of these things just seem like they should be so natural, because for some people they are much more natural, and they were like a first language. They were kind of caught naturally. Whereas for so many of us, and I'm sure all of us in some way in life, there's lots of us that have to learn certain skills, emotional, social, spiritual, whatever it is. We have to, intellectual for sure, we have to learn them later in life, more like you do a second language. And for those of you who have spoken a second language or studied one, you know that the process of just kind of receiving your first language that you just do so naturally is so different than the amount of work and effort that it takes to learn your second language. So I feel like, and in terms of emotional capacity, I feel like a second language speaker or second language learner in terms of emotional capacity, because these are things that I'm learning now, how to interact with myself and God and others, and things that I'm learning that it takes a lot of effort and a lot of intentionality. And it's a great, still wonderful process like it is to learn a second language, but it is very intentional and it can be very fatiguing. So my encouragement to myself tonight and to you is that it does get easier with time, like a language. It does get easier, and the more that you use it, the more that we practice these things, the easier it will become, and that it's worth it. It's worth it. That's my reminder for myself, and I hope it's an encouragement to you today too. I really look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have a great day.